Yeah, hi, Stefan. Are we on the right bridge, Stefan?
That is a good question. I took the link from a previous. Perhaps they have changed the link. No, we have one more coming.
Yeah, Varada is here. Okay.
Mm.
Sorry about that, guys. I'm trying to figure out how to get signed in. I guess I didn't have to. I go through a different way. So, okay. Sorry about that. All right. So let's get started. Let me quickly bring up the stuff. The challenge is to keep up with Zoom. All right. So this is the yeah, so, all right. Okay, so this is the ORAN integration meeting for January 10th. What we have on the agenda today is where we're at right now. Again, we're spending this month fleshing out the deployment, the network automation artifacts that we need for each of these use cases. So we have a couple things on the agenda. One is the administrivia of approving the minutes. I want to show you where there's this new presentation folders that we have. We'll give presentations back to the OSC and such like that. And then we've got some discussion on some current use cases that we need to resolve out there, or if we're going to do them in Release 3, or we try to get some status on them. And then we have a new use case or some additional use case to review for the freight cluster. And then I just wanted to show you some of the interaction diagrams that you may think are valuable or usable for some of the work that you're doing with respect to the network, the interaction diagrams that the service assurance team is doing. So is there anyone have any other items that they would like to see on the agenda? Okay, so let's just get started then. So this is the January 3rd meeting minutes. I'll just leave them here on the screen for a moment or two. Here's all the notes that were there. Does anyone have any concern about approving these minutes for January 3rd? Okay. Don't see any hands raised. Nothing in the chat, so I'm going to consider them approved. Just to let you know, we're starting to, in certain things, remember we're taking artifacts from OAI, we're taking artifacts from OSC, and we were actually, there's people that are doing presentations that are dealing with ORAN, status presentations, maybe what for other purposes, are creating presentations that are back to these organizations or some of these organizations. And so I knew of one that I think Sagar is making back to the OSC for their technical oversight committee. And so he created this presentation that he was going to give to them that gives them the current status of where we're at. I said, well, okay, so what we probably need to do is make sure that we have all these presentations that we provide externally in one place so people can look at and see where they're at. So I created this presentation folder that you can see, the ORAN network piece, and right now we're only doing for OSCs. I'll create new folders as we give them to different entities. And you can see now there's an integration status that SIG plans on giving on tomorrow, on the 11th of January, to the TOC. So you can look at that, and if you have any questions about that, you can talk to SIG on it. Certainly can do that through the Slack channel, not directly. So any questions on where the presentations would be going that we provide externally?
Tim, I would suggest you can put it on the chat so that people who are not on the meeting can also access it, perhaps. It'll be in the
Oh, okay. Oh, put it on Slack, what you're saying, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll do that. No worries. Okay, and so that's that. Now let's go into some of these inclusion and release 3. I saw a different meeting calendar. Really? Then what's in the Zoom link? Is that right, friend? Because I got both calendars. All right, I'll adjust it again.
Yeah, I think it has to be changed here, plus in the nephew calendar as well.
Oh, in the Nepio calendar. That's where I took it from. I took it from the Nepio calendar.
That'll be groups.io, I guess.
Yeah, I think before we used to have a separate link for this call, but now I think we started using the one common network architecture bridge, right? That's what we joined today.
Okay.
No,
I'll have
that's
to
not
look.
the one I
Yeah, I know.
used.
I know. I'm going to have to
Okay.
go find that one that we're using now. Okay.
Yeah, I
All
can
right,
post that in the chat.
Oh, if you can, that'd be great. Because I'd have to go find. I used this link and it did not work, right? So it was like, okay. But then one came up and it did work.
Is this the one from the calendar? I was using the calendar one.
I was using the calendar one.
Me too.
I just opened up the calendar, right? And that's this link that was there. I'll figure out the
Yeah.
link then. And I'll make sure that the link, what I'm trying to do is make sure that the link is this, is here. So, that you can always come here and get the link if you need it, right? So, but I will verify and try to figure out the right link. So, all right. Okay, but let's go down to the user story. Let's get something productive for you guys. So we have these use cases that we still got some questions about for release 3, right? And so I don't know what the current status is. Seishu and Ravi, could you give us a current status of the orchestration use case of where we're at, and particularly around what's, where we're at, and if what's its inclusion in release 3 look like?
Yeah, sure. I can start off. So this is again carrying over from the last call where there was some more comments around. We wanted to address the comments around terminologies and spec alignment and so on. So the new revision, the document that we have, I can share that my screen.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you see this, so this particular revision, it now aligns with the O2DMS's KTS profile spec, and primarily it also addresses the issues around single network function deploying network function using a single network function deployment. Yeah, so it's primarily kind of we redrafted the spec. This entire thing is pretty much it's more or less taken from the specification itself. And there are some comments. Anders had some few comments around homing. I think Seishu was also had similar homing comments and so on. We tried to address a few of them. Yeah, I think Anders is someone who had comments here. So Yeah, I mean, it's open for comments, but there are the other aspect, as I said, the more I would say the things that are more implementation dependent are these sections, which I think Seshu is having. Seshu, we had a sync up yesterday. Seshu said he's having discussions with Sagar and Alexi too on these components, like these sections on basically coming up with some kind of reference diagram, which would kind of boil down to more specific implementation aspects and all that. Yeah, Seshu probably you could fill in the
that's right. That's correct. So me and Sagar actually had a discussion even today. Also, we were discussing about how we have to take it to talk meeting tomorrow also. And also we have set up a call in the SMO call next week, where we will also talk about the integration of the OI with the OSC components. In line to that, what Ravi said is right. That's the first part of it. And then once I have Alexi's also, me and Alexi were also thinking about having the interconnection between the bridging between use case 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, right? The from registration of the cluster, new cluster creation. From there, how will I have it from the NFO perspective? And once we have the NFO onboarding the CNF application, from there the Sagar things will actually talk about. So that's entire bridge also is something which we're also looking into. In fact, homing and placement.
There's a couple things. So I just wanted to make sure I understand where we're at, right? Okay. So there was some major concerns about what we were going to deploy, whether it was an NF with multiple deployments or an NF with a single deployment. That's been resolved, right? We're going to do a single deployment in
Yes.
Release 1.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, okay, and we're going to treat that because the Kubernetes API, I think we all recognize is an NF deployment. Okay, so that was one question. The second question was, do we still have, for Release 3, still have the intention of doing the work, put this in Release 3? Is that accurate?
Come again, sorry, I didn't get you. Release 3, what?
For Release 3, we still have the intention of doing this use case for Neptune Release 3.
Yes, okay. You're talking about the use case, which we are showing right now is also for Release 3. We are planning for that. But we need the commitment from committers too. I mean, we need more contributors on it, but we are planning it for
hang on.
implementation point.
We'll do a single NF deployment for the NF. All right. And you're saying that still planning to do this for Release 3. To do this for Release 3. Now my question is, but you said you need committers, right? For this,
That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
For the use case. All right.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, to get this use case going, how many people are we talking about that you're going to need to do this?
That details is what I was explaining you, Tim. We are trying to actually have the first level of use case. That's what me and Ravi have talked about. Ravi was actually talking about. And the other discussion which I am having with Sagar, also with the OSA community, to see more helping hands to come in. Of course, Nefio Invest, we are presenting it here. So that's the second part which I was actually answering it. Right. So we'll get more details on how much we can bite, the bite size of it. According to that, we will also take out the MVP part of this functionality. And according to that, we will also decide how much of it can be taken for R3 and what is beyond it. That's the idea.
Okay. So what you're saying is that to the group, this is to the group, right? Is that if you're interested in this use case, do me a favor and and you want to commit to doing the work for the use case in OSC. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is going to be done in OSC primarily, right?
Yes, OSC, and then we'll upload it to Nefio. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's right. In OSC, I need you to talk to Seshu and Ravi about this, and so they can do the appropriate scheduling and scoping for the use case. Okay.
That's right.
And then Seshu, what I need you to do is come back and tell us what the outcome of that is. When do you need to know committers by?
We have the SMO meeting next week, next Wednesday. By then, if we get clarity, it will be better. So I would require one more week, I would say. I mean, at least by next weekend, I'll be able to give you something. And moreover, I am myself not in a very good position. I made a small accident, so I'm actually on bed rest. But that should not be stopping anything. I mean, I'm still working as such, but I'm just not active because I'm on sedation, some painkillers and all is what I'm consuming. Sorry for my personal thing, but I just wanted to be clear. Ravi has been very active. Ravi has been really supportive. Thanks a lot, Ravi, for everything that you have been doing. And Sagar has been supportive from the perspective of these interactions and all. So yes, we will do it together as a teamwork. We will take it forward. And Tim, if you can give me at least a week's more, I'll be able to give you the complete thing of where we stand. According to that, we will take a call. Is that okay?
Yeah. What I was doing was I was trying to put a suspense date for people to come to you and say, I'm interested, right? And so
Yes,
what
that will
you're
be
telling me, you're telling me that suspense date is probably 10/7 or 10/17, January 17th, right?
117, not 10/17. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Does anyone have any problem with for people that are interested? Do you think that will be okay for that to give that information to them? Does anyone need additional time that are thinking about committing resources? Okay, I don't see any hands. And so I think by the 17th, you will know what you have to work with, right? And that way you can come back and tell us what this thing scoped with, right?
Yes, that's the idea. I mean, post 17, I would say, because on 17, again, I'll also raise this request even in the OSC, because I also am expecting some committees to come in forward there too.
Yeah.
So I'll be getting back the next week to the same group here, and we'll be able to have a complete picture.
Come back on the 24th, right?
24th,
January 24th.
Yes.
With a release plan, right? For
Ravi, that seems to be okay. Ravi, that seems to be okay with you.
Yeah. I mean, because I think you have you have that view of the resources that you can pull in and so on. Yeah. But meanwhile, yeah, we could surely work on these other sections.
Yes.
I think what we discussed is the end-to-end flow or sequence diagram of how, I mean, details on how the network function intention can be expressed, what could go into CRs, and the interaction between NFO, FOCOM, and all that. I think
right. Actually, they go hand in hand, Ravi. What I mean, Ravi, you're right. What I mean to say is we will also work in hand as to what functionality should be in R3. So when we have these diagrams and all done, we will also know the kind of effort required and the number of resources, right? They go hand in hand. So according to the people whom we have, we will also have that's what I was saying, bite size, right? The bite size is what we'll determine.
Yeah, but some of this stuff you can get started on without having.
We will have it parallel. We will have it parallel.
Sure.
That's idea. Thanks.
Okay.
So then
all right, guys.
We'll start up with some parallel meetings, offline meetings to discuss this stuff. Okay.
Yeah. We will also involve Sagar in this. Yeah, we'll also involve Sagar in this.
Too, right?
Yeah, Alexei also and Sagar also. That's true.
I just hope it's more than you three. That's what I'm hoping. I'm looking at you guys are going to be 4 or 5 probably, so okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So that's this one. So I'm going to, Ravi, if you don't mind, I'm going to steal back the sharing.
Okay. Yeah, I did. Good stuff. Yeah.
All right. Now to find out where the share. Okay. All right. And so the second one that we have is this reconfiguration of the ORAN NF. And we had this conversation last week about some concerns about, right now we're looking at for release 3, the way that the use case is set up is that it's saying, hey, I'm going to use, the configuration as data principal. I'm going to have configuration come down through the GitOps pipeline to reconfigure the NF. But if you remember in ORAN, we actually have an interface, an O1 interface. That's a netconf interface that does that. And there were some concerns that if we do this, the reconfiguration that isn't O1 based, that we would leave confusion to the industry on this, right? So that was some of the stuff I believe that Erickson was concerned with, right? I think it was you, right, Anders? Is that right? I think, yeah. And so, yeah. And so, and I saw some responses back from Rhonda. So what I want to do is I want to come to some conclusion, guys, if we can today. What do we want to try to do for release 3? I think the options in front of us are this, right? We can do we know we can't do the 01 yet for release 3. We know we could, it's a low hanging fruit, we could do the reconfigure NF similar to what they did for the pre-5GC stuff in release 1 or release 2, whichever one it was. But that's going to lend confusion. That may very well lend confusion to the industry. Or we could both tie both of those POCs to showing that together. That would say here are two different alternatives, but they're the 01, or you can use this other way. So, but that would also mean that we would boot this use case to a further release than when we would do it, parallel, or at the same time we do the 01. So the question is to the group, and I'm going to open this up for about 10 minutes of discussion. In or out, what do we want to do with the reconfigure of the ORAN NF? And I think since it's an NF and we're reconfiguring it, I think I'll start with Sagar. Sagar, you probably know more about what you want to try to do with this, or what's your opinion of this?
Okay, I mean, as I also commented there, I mean, personally, as if we talk about only me and I talk about open air interface, it's it's both of the implementations in a way are fine with and without Owen, but looking at the aspect, since we are in the discussion regards with Owen, I would say we should do it with O1. But if we want to do it without Owen, as I mentioned in the last call also, we can, and this way we will just start off an activity of reconfiguration of the VM. But for sure, there will be people who will be confused that the way we are doing it is more like a declarative way, meaning that we will be updating the CR of the NF deployment CR. And then that CR will be taken by the operator, and then the operator will configure the NF. Though in the document I mentioned that the NF will not be configured on the fly if you will do this. But if we want to do it on the fly, we have to make some changes in the operator, which is developed today for R2. I will update that in the document.
Yeah.
And then if we will use O1 then the operator will not do anything, right? The SMO will directly communicate with the NF, and then it will do it. So, and then that means the capability will be mostly on the OAI side that does OAI support. So as I mentioned earlier, that the DU supports O1, we can do reconfiguration, and that is perfectly fine. So depending on how many people vote, I think we should go that way. So me, I'm fine in both directions. I don't have any strong opinion in if we should do it or not. I prefer to do it because it just starts an activity, but I would say that we do some sort of a voting, today.
Okay. And Veranda, I think you had some comments on that piece of it, and then I'll give you Andrew. Veranda. Verada. All right. So
am I audible?
You are now. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry for that. What I was thinking is, if we go via O1, it's going to be via the VES events configuration, and the same principle of out of band configuration might arise. So why not give a chance to put a NFO way of configuration just as an alternative? And if it proves to be much easier, faster, or if we have some data, right, then we may even go back to the ORAN Alliance or 3GPP to change it in a declarative way. We have done it for the DMS profile, right? So same way. So that's where I was coming. We should try something which exposes the NFO principles more, not currently worrying about the Oran Alliance or 3GPP, not entirely. And if it has a compelling performance benefits, then we can even go back to the Oran Alliance as a declarative approach. That's why I suggested, okay, let's try something, alternate. That was my intention for the comment, Tim.
Yeah. So the question I have on that one, and then I'm going to let Anders speak, right? But the question I had on that one was to showcase alternative approach. Sorry, I was listening and not typing. Approach to configuration. All right. So different. All right. So the question I have to you on this one is, and this is where I was thinking, it says, if I really want to show an alternative approach into the industry, then I have to have the alternatives in place. That's what I was saying, that if we do this, we might want to do this with an once we have an O1. Say, this is the O1 way, this is the other way, here's the performance differences between them. I think that at least provides value that the industry can understand. Someone can go in, touch it, feel it, test it, right? That was my opinion on saying, okay, I want to do an alternative approach. Okay, but you need to have both alternatives in place. So that was my opinion on that particular one. But Anders, you had yours. I think yours was the confusion question. So
right. Yeah. I'm sorry. One thing is, Tim, my intention is not to show something different than O1 configuration. My intention is kind of use some NFO principles, right? So
for the O1 configuration.
Right.
Oh, so that's a little bit different, Brenda. Okay, so just a second here, because I think that solves the problem, right? So the intention was to showcase an integrated, a different approach that to configuration that to the O1 or to the NF still uses that to the NF still uses the O1. Is that correct, Rhonda? Did I get this correct on what I'm showing?
Yeah, may not be as such. See, there might be possibility where the O1 is still not declarative. So there might be possibility. So in that case, what I was thinking that, okay, there are some principles in FAO. Let's try doing the configuration using the same thing. If there's a data model in O1 which can be converted to CRD, we have to go back to the 3GPP or Oran Alliance. Okay, but yes, instead of this JSON, we have to use the CRD. So there is some work. We can't say fully compliant upfront. I'm not sure how to put the word. I leave it to you.
Yeah, but the problem is that still sits, right? My response to this still sits, is that an alternative approach, and then I'll get you, Ravi, after it. The alternative approach needs to have alternatives. I need to see an O1, and it says the declarative configuration is different. I need to show that as it's different than an O1 configuration. Let people, poke that, right? And see if that's the case. And if that it ends up being the case in a more efficient piece that's accepted by ORAN, or ORAN is what we care about, it's O1, then great. We can get that into the in through OSC and into the ORAN alliance. But I think you have to have both alternatives in place in order to make that affect that change, right? Within the standards. That's what I was getting at, Rhonda.
Right.
And you may very well need the O1 anyway for stuff like, I don't know, PM or diagnostics or whatever, right? Some of the M parts of the OA.
Right. But before going to the Oran Alliance or 3GPP, they might say, Are there any different? Have you done any POC? They might want some data, right?
Yeah, but I think we have to have the alternatives together to do that. Anders?
Yes. So I think what I missed initially was just rationale. I didn't see a little bit like you said, Tim, that we had one implementation of O1 that we intended to do, and then we did a workaround for it before we actually had implementation as we wanted, but not really a reason for making that implementation and that workaround first, or any rationale for it. Then if we see that we want to use this as to move the overrun in some way, that might be a rationale. Sure.
Okay.
The question is
Yeah.
some timing. I
Yeah,
don't have
yeah.
a strong opinion if it's not a big thing, if somebody feels they really want this. It was more standing out as something that was not clearly defined why we did it.
All right. All right. And would you object then, Anders, for them to do the declarative approach in release 3 first, and then compare that to the O1 when we put that into that release, and then take those comparatives to the industry?
Not really, no.
Okay. All right. Just that was important to know as well as part of the time. Ravi?
No, just trying to understand. So what I heard from Varda saying, I mean, do we have the kind of the data model right now in O1 that supports this use case? Is that right? Or
We don't have
because
an O1. We don't have an O1 in release 3, right? Because we got to get the SMO OEM all set up, everything, right?
yeah,
So we
yeah.
don't
No, I'm
really
just
have
asking on the API front. Do we have that? ORAN is already, because I know ORAN focus was on the FMPM side of things. On the CM, I was thinking it's bit it's a
No,
slow progress. Is it
okay, so
there?
O1 I don't know, we'd have to ask safety. Because I think there's a difference, right? O1 specifications, it's there. O1 OSC, Seshu?
Yes, it is part of the RICS implementation, or I mean, as in SMO, as an OSC project. That's where the RIC comes into picture.
No, actually 3GPP. 3G, if something is not there in ORAN, they refer to 3GPP. 3GPP
That's
has
true.
the
I'm
CM.
saying from OSC project perspective, but I was asking from OSC
OSC
project.
project position on the OEM, do they have CM in place for the NF?
I need to recheck on this. I remember it was started, but I need to check what is the status of it. We can take this query to the OEM project manager, I mean, PTL.
Yeah, I mean, CM is one thing, but even the APIs and the information model, if you're referring from 3GPP, is that something
yeah.
that they're
So
doing? So that's my question.
Robbie, I'm telling you, the APIs, the ORAN specification. I work in that group. In fact, that's where I was before this. The APIs for the O1 are all there, right? So the specifications there, the information model, the data model.
Yeah, implementation is what we are talking about, Ravi, not the spec alone, right?
Yeah, okay. Okay. No, again, the DMs are there. That's what I was trying to understand. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
The DM's there, all the Yangs there, and all the stuff's there from a specification. Alok, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, just wanted to confirm. I think you answered. So we have the APIs and data model for the O1.
Yeah.
what
We
you
just
said.
don't have. I need the SMO code that does that,
Yeah.
right? All worked in, right? So it's like, and that's what Seshu says.
Sagar, I can connect you to the right guys for that. We can check it together. That will be helpful.
Oh, okay, perfect.
All right. So guys, let me ask the question. Is anyone adamant about making this part of release? And when I talk about adamant, currency is code, baby. Or code is currency, rather. Is anyone adamant about putting this into release 3? If we do it, I think we want to show O1 and the declarative approach together. Now we could do the declarative approach together, but the O1 would come right after next release. Is anyone adamant about this, or do we think the other option I think we have is to put it on backlog until we have the O1 CM in place?
See, I won't say adamant. uh, People have been asking, okay, Nephew brings a lot of different principles, like, shift left. I've been talking about this, in multiple forums. So, but what I gain, from the other way, I think that, these sorts of features would trigger, oh, okay, I need not always go through an API, out of band API. This is more cloud native, and also make use of the CR syncing process. So, okay, it's a different way of reconfiguration. Okay. So in that way, I was waiting for one feature in Nephew, okay, where they can showcase the new things like this power hydration, shift left, or the CR syncing. So in that way, I would say, I've been waiting for such features.
Okay, but
That
Barada,
way,
I'm gonna be honest with you, is that again, uh, coding and having committers to do this function is important, right? So because we know, I think what Sagar had said was that this requires some rework of the existing approach, because the existing approach causes a restart, if I understand it correctly, of the network function, which is not a good thing when you talk about telecom. All right, so the question to that is that how adamant are you about putting this in, knowing that you may very well have to be, or say you, Samsung, may very well have to be involved in doing
we are ready for a POC. In fact, we were deciding, to have a powerful POC, like how much benefits we carry. There might be some bottlenecks also, Tim. So, we were ready for POC, but this I leave it to Sagar, Sagar, like initially you were planning for this, right? You need any support in the form of commits for
right.
this
So
reconfiguration?
I'm getting there. So Anders, you have your hand raised before. I'm trying to move you guys along into it. So, Anders?
Yeah, just a small comment on the protocol you're writing. You have
Oh, you can bring that up and fix it, Anders. If I misspoke on something, just change it.
Fix it.
I'm just trying to
change
help
it.
you guys, man. Yeah. If I misconstrued what you said, change my text, guys.
Okay.
All right.
It's getting done.
So,
Keep
all right,
going.
thank you, sir. All right, so Sagar, Veranda, if we do this, we do it in release 3, but I don't think we do anything back to ORAN until we have something, we have the alternatives together. Is that acceptable? And Sagar, do you want to do this? Again, it's people committing to do the work.
Okay, so I would like to also ask Joseph, since he made the operator, so I mean, if he will be having the time, to include the changes. So, Joseph, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we'll have to discuss this in our team as
Okay.
well, I think.
All right. So let's do
we
this.
can get back on this then. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to put an action item on you. Do you think, Joseph, do you think that you could come back on next Wednesday on this?
Yeah, sure.
17. Support the effort, right? If Samsung can support the effort, right? And I'm going to say Samsung and OAI, right? I think are the two. And for you, Seishu, I think you're going to come back on this again on 124, right?
Yes,
Right.
that's a probable date. I mean, what I'll do is I'll also connect Sagar to have the clarifications on this so
Sure.
that he can get the complete picture.
Yeah, if you get it before 117, then or 124, that's great. If not, I'll
Yeah,
ask you then
17,
on
before 17, we have a meeting. Sagar, I'll involve you in one more meeting where some of us PTLs will be coming too. And
Okay.
I'll also introduce you to Martin and other people. Yeah.
All right. You can always do something faster than the deadline. But...
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So I think where we're at right now is that if we got committers for release 3 for the reconfigure NF, we'll do it, right? And we'll look at how quickly we can get the L1 in with the OSC people. It looks like it's probably going to be, I don't know, and we're going to look at that. We'll take that one step at a time. Any objection with the way forward on that?
Perfect.
Perfect. Well, good. Okay. You guys are too easy. I like this. All right. So the other one was Alok. I'm going to let you take your screen, start sharing, and we're going to discuss some additional information that Ericsson made on the use case for creating the cluster. That I think has already been vetted by Alexis. So I'll let you take that and go with it, buddy.
Yep. Thanks, Tim. Let me share how much time we have. Like, do we have any other?
Nope, that's it. You got almost 15 minutes, man.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see, because I have a hard stop at top of the hour. Let me bring that. It should be now visible, right? So I have uploaded the use case and or the user story, right, in our Google Drive, and this is the one. Is it readable? Okay, so I think two main changes or the modifications in the previous version of this document. One is around the requirements. I think previously it was something like this, and to me it sounds like after going through that as under the requirements section, this looks like more of a procedure and some sort of an ingredients that we need to come up with a Kubernetes cluster, right? And there are certain like open items, since it has been written in the ORAN long ago, and that time we were not even discussing the declarative approach. It was all written keeping in the mind the imperative approach, right? So you'll find a lot of FFS around the definitions, which, by the way, Nephew will have to come up with because it is the realization in the implementation, right? So what I felt is maybe let's go with some high-level requirements for now, as the section itself says, and I can read it out. Let me know if there are any comments. I don't see any here. There is another section which will take it up later, but the requirement goes like this. The FOCOM, which is the SMO Nephew management cluster, shall be able to send or create Kubernetes cluster with the user credentials, template ID, and the requested capabilities and capacity parameter for the Kubernetes cluster. And that's the very first requirement, with a note that these user credentials are later used to authorize the user to have access or used to the created Kubernetes cluster based on the role privileges. So that will be used for the authentication and authorization purposes. Then the second requirement around the IMS, which is the OCloud Nephew management cluster in the OCloud, that shall be able to process all these requests to create the Kubernetes cluster based upon the requested cluster template capability and capacity parameter from FOCOM, as well as the internal cluster template artifacts, right? So which is defined on the OCloud level, let's say. And then the third requirement is about, again, the IMS, which is the OCloud Nephew management cluster shall clean up after any exception, the exceptions that has been faced while creating the Kubernetes cluster or fulfilling that request. With a note, specific details of actions and activity that are reserved to accomplish a cleanup is left up to the implementation. So we'll decide how we want it to do, when we'll start implementing. So yeah, these are the three high-level requirements. I've just replaced the whole table with these high-level set of requirements. Any comments, questions? Tim, you might need to help me with the raised hand if there are any.
I don't see any raised hands. Again, this went through, Alexis looked at it, he vetted it. So does anyone have any questions on it? See no raised hands. Okay.
Okay.
So, but you also had the component architecture, right? Which I thought was
exactly,
fantastic.
which is the major chunk, right, in this contribution. Yeah. And for that, Stefan, would you like to take that up?
I can take it. I can take over the sharing here.
Yep, perfect.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah. So what I looked into then is, considering the like integration architecture that we have agreed on then for Nephew implementing Oran, you would have like one Nephew management cluster or Nephew implementation realizing the FOCOM and FO components. And then in each OCloud, I'm very sorry, I need to turn this off. In each OCloud, you will have separate IMSs then. That, in a certain setup also then should be able to be implemented by Nephew. It also could be so that like either the FOCOM and FO side or the IMS side is implemented in some other way, as long as we have the O2 IMS interface in between them. So we provide that kind of a multi-vendor capability then with the O2 IMS interface as the standardized reference point between them. But what I have done here in the component mapping is that we assume then that we have Nephew on both sides. So we have an implementation of Nephew for FOCOM and FO, and an implementation with Nephew for the IMS. And then in that case, then you would have then workload cluster templates defined both on the SMO side and on the IMS side. So this will be like a separate set of Nephew workload cluster blueprint packages on each side. And this is what I'm describing now then in this component mapping then. So perhaps I can go to the picture and then we can go back to the text. I think it's easier to talk over a picture. So on the FOCOM side here, the only thing for now I have illustrated here is just the blueprints. This could either be like this Nephew organizational blueprints or external blueprints in like an example blueprint repo. And then you would have blueprints then for the workload clusters that are in on this level. They are just the task of them is just to refer to the underlying OCloud level blueprint. So that is the main thing. So you have like some sort of a target IMS blueprint ID that is then referring to the package ID, the blueprint package ID in the IMS. Another important part here is that you have the input data that is required, so that you from like a FOCOM side or the user, the client on the FOCOM side can provide like deployment specific input then that is will be conveyed down towards the blueprint on the IMS side. And for this, we also need to secure a way then so that the OCloud on the OCloud level blueprint can convey, like for instance, via setters YAML file definition, what input data that is expected, what default parameters, what required data that is shall be provided from the FOCOM side. And then the suggestion we have on the FOCOM side is that we are realizing the O2IMS implementation using copy. I mean, following a similar approach that we have seen in the Nephew R1 release, where you have copy to deploy the Docker kind clusters. So you have like a kept package there for the cluster copy, I mean, a cluster copy kind package. So here, in a similar way then, I have drawn this a bit, I mean, simplified, I think. I mean, the thinking here is that this should be like still a kept package, but now then for a cluster copy O2IMS package. And inside of that one, you have all the other kept package and apply a replacement manifest files also. But then you have the cluster YAML file following the copy kind, and then a topology class here that we need to define then, and that is the O2IMS copy class. And then hand in hand with this one, we would need to have a provider plugin then, a cluster API provider plugin that can I mean, support this O2IMS cluster class then, and provide the relevant data down to O2IMS. So in this case, then it is the provider plugin then on the copy side that will realize the O2IMS interface, and then convey this input data then, like the target IMS blueprint ID, refer to a blueprint down onto the IMS side, provide the blueprint input that has been, I mean, instance specific then, down on the IMS side. So basically that kind of a mapping then would be needed from like the instance specific information down to the cluster YAML file then, and then the copy provider plugin. And then the important thing on the O2IMS side then is that here the blueprints then can be vendor specific in terms of how you are implementing them. I mean, here I have an example where you on the IMS side and also are using copy internally. So here it could be like this Metal 3 provider plugin for a bare metal cluster, or you can have the Capo provider plugin for an OpenStack cluster. I have another case with an OCloud 2 here, where you have some sort of a completely cluster IMS internal specification that is something specific for a certain vendor, and the way you would like to manage your internal bare metal deployments, for instance, and with I mean some vendor specific custom resources. Then those things will exist only in that OCloud specific blueprint package. Then. So they will not be visible up on the SMO side. So what we only need to do, and I mean, important is that on the SMO side, everything looks exactly the same. Then you have your main kept package for your workload cluster, and then you refer to this common cluster copy O2IMS kept package that is triggering the provider plugin, then implementing the O2IMS interface. So in this way, we think that like all the blueprints could be aligned then on the FOCOM side, and then they could be like still vendor specific then on the OCloud side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's
Yep.
get, because we've got like about 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So let's get some questions. Let's make sure that does anyone have any questions on the approach? Ravi, your hand is raised.
Yeah, a couple of questions. I'm sorry, I'm in the car. I can't see the whole document. I had left few questions when I was reading document yesterday. So one thing is, how do we relate these blueprints to the OCloud registration use case, where you're actually building the inventory and the software? And I also saw some references to an implementation based on bare metals, or are we still using the kind cluster kind of implementation view here?
So I saw your comment there. So I think this is something we would like to discuss. I could imagine that we have a method as a part of the OCloud onboarding into FOCOM, that you also then do a discovery of all the blueprints on the OCloud side and via the O2IMS interface. So you are querying up the OCloud level blueprints. Then based on those, you can then create your SMO level blueprints. At least the external blueprints side should be possible to be then created on the FOCOM side. Then you might want, as an operator, I have commented on that. I have not. You might want to tailor it further if you would like to put some parameterization with some fixed parameters or so, then to further tailor your blueprint for a particular use case. I think you could do that also on the FOCOM side. But initially, my thinking is that, like, if you have a reference design, typically the way I see we do in Ericsson, then that we have like a 5G core reference design for a particular OCloud type and a particular vendor that we have handshaken then with that OCloud vendor, that it will work with their clusters and so on. And then we could then create a blueprint on the OCloud side that is like an Ericsson validated blueprint that would work as a first step template, and then also that one could be further customized for each operator then. But then at least you have something as a first step reference design, and that is like handshaken between Ericsson and the OCloud vendor.
Sure. I haven't seen your responses. I'll go through that as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah.
All right. So any other questions? We got about 1 minute to go, guys. All right. So Stefan, I do have a question for you, right?
Yeah.
You know, since Thomas is working this from Ericsson is working this in ORAN specifications where it's basically a call by reference from the FOCOM to the IMS. You're just saying I want template X, right? Is that following the same paradigm that he's looking at?
I've been syncing with him, and I think we are aligned here. The thing is that in a nephew case, you would still have realization-wise here. On the FOCOM side, you would still have like a kept package that is like a FOCOM type of kept package that is then referring to and invoking the copy component and on the FOCOM side that will talk to IMS. So that will still be like a kept package version that is like the FOCOM variant of the template. And then you have a corresponding IMS variant of the template down in the OCloud that is the one that you refer to. But basically, you will have a one-to-one mapping between those two.
That's good. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure, because the only thing that's going to go across that I2 IMS interface is says I want template 42. Right?
Yeah. I have this. So basically, this is a picture from, if you can see that one.
That's the bad boy I want.
Yeah. So you have this cluster template. In what they have drawn here is like this cluster template entry 11 here, then pointing to template ID cluster template 1 down in the OCloud. And basically, the realization here, as I see it, and would be like that this entry is then realized as an SMO level kept package, and the template ID is pointing then to an OCloud level kept package.
Okay. All right. You're synced in. Good. That was the exact thing that I needed to see from my standpoint. All right.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So let's continue on with that work. People, it's available there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually rename yours and replace the one that's there, because yours has an Ericsson on it. I'm just going to take the Ericsson off of it. It'll be the baseline now. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that make sense? All right. So this is going to be the baseline going forward, guys. And that's it for today. So I'll see you guys next week. Stay safe. Appreciate it. Continue working on your use cases. Again, remember, end of the month, guys. We're going to be ready. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye.